In today's lesson, we will be discussing spring tides. Have you ever noticed how the ocean moves up and down at the beach? I'm not talking about waves. I'm talking about water levels rising and decreasing over a longer period of time. This phenomenon is known as tides. Tides are affected by three different aspects: moon, sun, and rotation of the earth around its own axis. As we know, the moon is revolving around the earth. At the same time, the earth is revolving around the sun. These two aspects play a role in tides. During this video, we will see how moon phases and gravity affect tides. Let's start by unpacking tides. Here we have four different images at two locations. At the first location, we see water levels are low and then it's high again. At the second location, we see water levels are high and then it is low again. This is because there are high tides and low tides. Where there are less water, it is known as low tide. Where you see more water, it is known as high tide. Do you remember that we said tides are affected by gravity? As we know, the moon is revolving around the earth. At the same time, the earth is revolving around the sun. Because the moon is closer to the earth than the sun, objects on earth experience a greater gravitational pull from the moon than it does from the sun. The moon's gravity pulls on Earth's water, creating a bulge on the side facing the moon. On the opposite side, there is also a bulge. This bulge is created by something called inertia. Now, what is inertia? Inertia is the tendency of an object to keep moving in a certain direction. The moon pulls Earth's water, making a high tide on the side facing the moon. On the opposite side, the water wants to keep moving away, like when you spin a bucket of water and the water pushes out. This creates another high tide on the opposite side of Earth, giving us two high tides and two low tides each day. The difference in water level between high tide and low tide is known as tidal ranges. Here is a question for us to think about. If tides are affected by the gravitational pull from the moon and the sun, what happens when the moon and the sun are in line with the earth? The answer to this question is spring tides. Spring tides happen when the sun, earth, and moon are aligned. There are two instances where the sun, earth, and moon is aligned. This happens during new moon and during full moon. As you can see that the moon is on different sides of the earth at new moon and at full moon, but in both cases, the sun, earth, and moon are aligned. This alignment increases the gravitational pull on Earth's oceans, making high tides higher and low tides lower. Gravity from the sun added to gravity from the moon creates extra high tides and extra low tides. As a result, the spring tide tidal range will be greater than the tidal range we looked at earlier. The gravitational pull of both the sun and moon combines to create stronger tides. The force is strongest when the moon and sun pull together in the same or opposite directions. This causes extreme high and low tides, making the tidal range the largest. As we heard, spring tides happen during full moon and new moon. During new moon, the side of the moon facing the earth will be dark, and during full moon, the side of the moon facing the earth will be lit. This is an easy way to identify when it's spring tide. In this simulation, we will be looking at the moon revolving around the earth and the earth rotating on its own axis. The orange arrow represents the sun. As you can see by the simulation, there is a man standing on one position of the earth. We are going to pay attention to how this man moves through the high tides and low tides. High tides are represented by the two light blue bulges on opposite sides of the earth. The other two sides of the earth, where there are no bulges, represent low tides. On the right side of this simulation, we can see how the ocean levels at the coastline differs as the moon revolves around the earth. As we can see, the tidal range is increasing. Now the moon is at full moon. As we can see, the man standing on the Earth's surface is experiencing high tide. This high tide is an extra high tide, known as spring tide. On the opposite side of the Earth is also spring tide. This is because the Sun, Earth and Moon is now aligned. As we can see on the right, the tidal range is now extreme. As the Moon moves away from this linear position, we can see the tidal range slowly decreasing. Here the tidal range would be at its lowest. From this point, the Moon is moving towards a position where the Sun, Earth and Moon will be aligned again. This position is known as new moon, and as we can see, there are two high tides and extra low tides again. This means we are experiencing spring tides. Because of the Earth's rotation, most places have 2 high tides and 2 low tides every day. As we know, the Earth rotates on its own axis, and this takes about 24 hours. This means that every 6 hours there will be a different tide. The man starts at a high tide. Approximately 6 hours later, he will move to a low tide. Let us watch the video again to see this happening. Man starts at high tide, then 6 hours later experiences low tide in the area, another 6 hours later high tide, and approximately another 6 hours later low tide again, until the Earth has revolved once around its own axis. As we know from previous lessons, a moon cycle takes approximately 1 month. This means that there will be 1 new moon and 1 full moon every month. Spring tides happen twice a month, once during new moon and once during full moon. That was quite a lot of information on spring tides. Let us briefly recap. Spring tides occur during new moon and full moon. Spring tides are also stronger tides. Remember that we said high tides are higher and low tides are lower during spring tides. This is due to gravity from the Sun and Moon that are added to one another when it is aligned with the Earth. Spring tides also consist of 2 bulges, one of the bulges always facing the Moon and another bulge at the opposite side caused by inertia. Spring tides happen twice a month. That is all that we will be unpacking on the topic of spring tides. Remember to stay curious and keep learning.